you need to understand like how much return on your invested dollars you need in order to get to where you want to go.
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hello, welcome back to Pillars of Wealth Creation. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. With me, excited to have Joe DiSanto. Joe, how are you doing today?
Hey, Todd, what's happening? I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Well, yeah, a little bit about Joe. He's the owner of Play Louder, fractional CFO, consultant, and authority blogger. Joe spent his childhood riding BMX bikes, breakdancing, and memorizing 80s movies. But now, he's doing a little bit different stuff. Are you still breakdancing, Joe?
Yes, I break dance weekly.
Love
So it's keeping me in shape.
Love it. So, look, valuable lessons were learned through his childhood, and I'll let him kind of dive in there. But basically, is if you don't deal with your money will deal with you. And so from that point on, Joe made his mission to learn everything he could about making smart money moves. And by the age of 30, Joe wiped out $70,000 in student loans, bought his first house, and started a post-production company in Los Angeles. And over the next decade, the company grew to over 30 employees with over 5 million in annual revenue. And I'm gonna stop right there because I want you to dive in because you certainly will tell the story much better than me. So why don't you give our listeners a bit more about your background, and then we're just going to really dive into some of the lessons you learned along the way.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, as you mentioned there in the bio. So, in my 20s and 30s, I, got going in my career. But I always had the eye on kind of owning a business and eventually made that happen around the age of 30. But I'm kind of interesting. Well, I like to think that I'm kind of interesting. My wife says I am, but we'll see what your viewers think. But I'm interesting in that I kind of have a math and an art brain. So I actually went to college and was a photography major and was interested in the arts and was doing that. And my plan was eventually to kind of leave college and go try to be a photographer. So I moved to New York, was there for a couple of years, and eventually went to LA. But I also, though, have kind of a math brain too, and was always interested, in finance and investing and things like that. And as I got towards later in college, I kind of realized that, I was seeing my debt from student loans and everything start to pile up, and even credit cards and things like that. So I really just got into like the personal finance thing, I guess you would say. I was trying to like control my spending and do my best to like, mitigate going into more debt, even though that was basically hard. So I was like, well, I should really know at least what I'm spending. And, I did work in college, so I had some income, and I was writing it down in a little notebook all the time. And then I was like, this is really tedious. There must be some sort of like computer thing I can do to, make this easier. And it turned out there was. It was called Quicken, and back then, this is in the late 90s. So it was like you actually had to go to like Staples, to buy your computer software. And there was pretty much that, and I think like Microsoft money at the time. But anyway, Quicken's still around. I still use that. So I've been using Quicken for 25 years. And basically, Quicken really helped me to not only understand money and get better at like, the personal finance side of things, but it really helped me actually to learn how to manage the finances of a business. I really started to view my personal finances in the business of me as just that, the business of me. Like me as essentially the product or the person out there working, before having a business, I had a job and they were my one client. And like any business, you have to make more than you spend, and you have to have a business plan, and you have to, know where you're headed and all those sorts of things. And then you have to do bookkeeping and then analyze the financial reality of the situation and then make good decisions from there. So Quicken really kind of helped me to be prepared to run the finances of an actual business. And, cut to, I don't know, late 20s, I was kind of moving along in my career. I had found post-production. I was enjoying that. And luckily, post-production was the kind of business that, was doable in terms of opening an actual business for myself. Not every career, makes it easy to open a business, if you're, I don't know, just if you're in the like microchip processor making business, that might be hard to, pretty hard to open a business. But post-production is kind of like, relatively small businesses, anywhere from 5 to 50 employees or something like that. And it seemed achievable. And I always wanted to own a
explain post-production.
Oh, sure. Well, so in the entertainment industry, I guess, or the content making industry, so we would make content or videos essentially for both entertainment, film and television, but also the advertising industry is making television commercials.
Mm-hmm.
And in that process, there's, kind of two main components. There's the production, which is when you go out and with your camera and you shoot the footage and all that sort of stuff. And then once you shoot the material and get it, quote unquote, in the can, it moves on to the post-production company. And that's where the editing happens. And then a host of other, post-production or after production services. So it's video editing, audio editing, video and audio mastering, color corrections, and visual effects, perhaps design and animation. And post-production is kind of a broad term. There are companies in the post-production business that maybe specialize just in animation or specialize just in sound design. We were kind of a full service post-production company. So we did all the services under one roof. But mostly we did the services for hire, meaning, there'd be a production and they were like, we're going to hire an editorial company. And, I'm not the owner of the project or the producer of the project. I just get hired to work on it. But we also got into producing our own content because a lot of us really wanted to do that. As part of the reason we went to Los Angeles in the first place. And so we ended up setting out to produce a documentary early in our company's career that we, financed and did the creative for and concepted, and that was called Transcendent Man, and that led to us doing another documentary with Dave Grohl called Sound City. Dave Grohl, the Foo Fighters, and then that led to us co-producing a series for HBO with Dave called Sonic Highways. So, in addition to our work for hire, which was kind of the majority of our business, we also produce some of our own content, as producers. So I went off, that's a little bit of a tangent, but there's the bigger picture of my business, or at least, previous to leaving Los Angeles. But I was gonna say that, I always kind of wanted to start a business for whatever reason as well. Probably because in growing up, my father had a plumbing and heating business. So, we grew up, I guess, at least until my parents split up, having a family that owned a business, and so I think that fact that my family did own a business kind of made it seem very possible that I would own a business, and it seemed like a good idea. Like, that's a way to make a living. You own a business, and
yep.
And there's, were obviously a lot of positive attributes to that. So that was kind of always planted in my head that eventually one day, man, I would open a business. And so I was always looking or had my eye out for achieving that while I was getting going in my post-production career. So I had it on the mind the whole time, that first 10 years of working. And inevitably, I kind of found some partners that, some friends that, I thought would be good partners. And 4 of us kind of left this company that we were at and started our own company in end of 2005. So I was just about 30 years old at that point. And there we go. All the things I just said about that happening and the shows and all that, have, all happened over the next 15 years. And then I switched it up. My wife and I decided we wanted to work less and have more family time after we had our kid. So we decided to just blow up our lives. Like my partners cashed me out of the business. We moved to the Tampa, Florida area to have like lower overhead, less expenses, and the ability to work less. And all of that was possible through that, personal finance component I mentioned earlier, like treating my personal finances like a business, learning about investing, making earning money and saving money and investing money like a really, major priority in my life. And that allowed us, when the time came that we wanted to change it up, we had the ability to do that because we had saved and prepared, and we're financially in a situation where we could accomplish that. So
Take me through that decision. I mean, you worked really hard. How many years total did you own the business?
own the business for about 13 years.
Okay.
And then prior to that, kind of worked in the post-production business from college, till we started the business for about 9 years.
Okay. So you're in the business a total of 22 years, and you owned a business for about 13.
Mm-hmm.
Take me through that decision. I mean, 22 years, you're young still. 13 years owning a business. It's not like you're 60 years old, 70 years old, retirement age. You're what, mid 40s?
Yeah, I'm 46 right now.
So 46.
Right?
When
46.
did you kind of hang it up, retire?
Yeah, well, I call myself semi-retired now.
Semi-retired.
And just to clarify what that means is, to me, semi-retired is like I can make my kind of net, so to speak, overall expenses through a combination of working part-time and also some income streams from real estate investments and what have you. And I'm not particularly worried about saving more money for like our eventual retirement. I think if like the money we've saved just continues to grow and do its thing over the next 15, 20 years, we'll be fine for kind of permanent retirement. So I'm in this sort of part-time work state, and we've come to talk about this, my wife and I, on our blog as like act 3 of a 4-act life. Like we're all normally in this 3-act life. You kind of educate up until 20, work from 20 to 60, and then hit the rocking chair, I guess, and then from 60 to 80, and then wither off and die. But so we're doing like 20 20 20 20, school 20, working insanely hard for 20 and save. Then the third phase is like kind of a downshift into like a part-time work, more casual lifestyle. But you're not like older, you're still very active and kind of like young, and you have, like in our case, our kid is 6, so like we're focused on kind of the family time right now, and all the saving and everything and working hard and focusing on generating income and all that has allowed us to kind of have this more, relaxed lifestyle, I guess, from the age, rough age 40, 45 to 65. So we'll see. I mean, we're all living longer through technology and stuff. So I don't know, maybe our, 80-year basic timeline will turn out to be a little short. Who knows? But yeah, so that's what my semi-retired essentially means to me, in the state that we're in. But to answer your question, it's like, why did I choose to do that? Because I'm not that old.
Right.
Yeah, I could have kept working till I was 60. I mean, but the business we're in, it's a long hours biz. I mean, and most careers are these days, if you're going to be successful at them, I suppose. But you really have to live your work, and you have to like put it before everything else. And after we had our kids, it was just kind of hard to do that. It was kind of hard to do that, and then also kind of be like parents we wanted to be, and have be able to spend quality time with our kid, and not time where I'm playing with him and got my phone in the other hand and texting and being stressed out and all that. So after about 3 years of doing both, we're just like we're kind of tired, and we're just like, could we do this differently? Like, and if we could, would we want to? Would we? And the businesses, as you get more employees and stuff, it gets just more and more time consuming. So I loved it. It was great, and like, I miss it in some ways, but the idea of being able to spend like more better time with my kid, my family, I don't know, it just seemed like a better idea at the time, and it's been great. You know, I'm happy I did it, and I've fallen into a new kind of business. I have what I call like a small business management firm now that just organically grew out of since leaving my regular business, kind of just organically kind of grew on its own because of my skill set and what I identified a bit as a niche, like that needed to be filled for small business owners. And that's,
Yeah,
sorry, go
what's
ahead.
that?
So like when I left, you know, my wife and I didn't have like any particularly great plan for income generation, but we had our real estate and stuff, and we were going to do this blog. I kind of wanted to get into blogging and, you know, help doing some education and stuff, because in my business over the years, I mentored a lot of like assistants and young people, and they would often see me, you know, dealing with the real estate or listen to me on the phone because we had kind of a shared office. And a lot of them would say like, yeah, you know, you should teach like a class on personal finance or something like at the community college. Because I was also always trying to get them into like, start using Quicken and get into like, you know, managing your finances. And I was like, yeah, someday that could be fun. But, you know, cut to whatever 2018, it's like you educate people online now. So I was like, I think I could do this blog, and, you know, we'll see where that takes us. But and that's playlouder.com. That's my blog. And on there, I have courses and all these topics and so on. But what happened when I left is that I used to manage all the finances for the business, was kind of the CFO I was kind of the CEO and CFO, I guess you'd say. And my partners, who were, you know, they were supportive, but they were, you know, a little nervous about me leaving at the time because I did a lot of stuff. And, you know, they were like, hey, what if we pay you just to like manage the finances, you know, like, cause you've been doing that for so long and none of us do that. And, you know, you can do it from wherever, obviously you're going to move, but
yeah.
And this is pre-COVID, but so I was a little bit of a pioneer in like the, you know, working from home remote thing. And I said, yeah, that's actually great because I don't really have much of a plan. So we said, cool. And I started just doing that for them, you know, just keeping my eye on the finances. I, you know, worked with my old assistant who is like the primary bookkeeper and stuff. And I just, like, you know, on a monthly basis oversaw things, cash flow projections, various stuff. And then I was, you know, talking to some other friends who own businesses and just telling them that story, this very thing, and what I'm doing for my old company. And they're like, oh, wow, are you doing that now? Like, you know, will you do that for us? Because we totally need someone to do that. Like, it's really. And so I said, sure. So a couple more clients. And now I have about 6 companies that I do it for. And then also a handful of higher income individuals who work as, you know, usually creative consultants, like film directors or editors or whatever. And they make pretty good money, but they have their own corp. So they technically are their own business, but, you know, it's just them. And, you know, they work essentially as creative consultants. And it just slowly evolved into me having a little business management firm. And essentially, I'm like a business manager or fractional CFO, as I say, in the case of the companies. And now I have one employee that helps me with, you know, all the bookkeeping. And I learned there that, or I, you know, just became revealed to me that, you know, if you don't have a partner in your business that's the money guy, that really, you know, is into that and can handle that, you're definitely at a little bit of a disadvantage. And a lot of like creative companies, they'll have like 2 partners, but they'll both be creatives, you know, and neither of them deal with money. And so especially in the earlier days, you know, if your company is like, you know, 2, 3 to 5, even up to like, you know, 10, 20 employees, you might not have the revenue to have like a full-time CFO, you know. So there is this little niche for the fractional CFO, basically someone that can work part-time, but bring, you know, real life, you know, business management experience to your company. And there is a need for that as it turns out. So yeah, just through word of mouth and, you know, friends and people I know, I've created this whole roster of clients, and that's turned out to be my new part-time job. Frankly, I had to hire someone because my part-timeness was getting eaten up by new clients. And like, I don't like to say no, because just my old ways. It's like, you don't kick a gift horse in the mouth. So then I'm like, well, I hired someone so that I can hopefully, I'm getting them up to speed, I can go back to a little bit more my life of leisure.
So what's an ideal what's an ideal like work week look for you as a semi-retired person? What does that look like? Is it 20 hours of work a week? Is it still close to 40?
Yeah.
Or
Well, these days, I tell you, because I've added a bunch more clients this year, it's almost gotten to like full time again, which has been frankly frustrating, because I like my routine before.
You gotta learn to say no.
Yeah, I gotta say no, but I'm always, it's like you never say no, because then eventually someone's gonna leave. It's like you want to.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I overdid it. But previous to having so many clients this past year, it was great. Honestly, I'd work maybe 2 days a week on the fractional CFO stuff, and I might concentrate that in 2 days, or I might do just mornings on that. And then I would also do my blog in addition to that. I don't consider that exactly work, because it's a choice to do it and I enjoy it. But even that's kind of fallen to the wayside.
The blog and the materials you produce there?
Yes, yeah. So the blog was initially intended to be a business in and of itself, and it does generate revenue. It doesn't make as much money as I had hoped it would be making by this point, but it's got a good trajectory. And the way I make money there is like doing advertising on my content, Google ads and stuff like that. But that's the most minimal amount.
Sure.
Doing some sponsored content, and then primarily I make money there through my courses. So it's funny that your show is called The Pillars of Wealth Creation, because my concept and the way I teach through my blog is I have 3 pillars to success. I really do. And this is how I view it in life, both from instinct, but also looking back on what worked for me. And the 3 pillars are essentially financial prudency, or personal finance, treating your personal life like a business, tracking your income and expenses, making sure you actually make more money than you spend, because that is your only real savings.
Right.
The second pillar is entrepreneurialism, or being business minded. And that is either owning a business if you can, because I think that's the way that you can control your income the most, and also control your time, and allow you to be able to work on multiple things and so on.
And control your future income too, right?
Yes.
When you finally stop or decide to stop, you've got some future income.
Mm-hmm. But you can also be entrepreneurial just in your job, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to think about my job as like, I'm the business. I have one client. I need to get more money out of that client over time. I need more responsibility. So I gotta grow that line of business. And the more you take on, and I think the more you treat your job like it's the business of you, ultimately, the more opportunity that's going to be presented to you through your employment. But you can also, I think, do like a side job, or side hustle, as they say today, to have a little bit of your own business, because you do get a lot of tax benefits from being a business owner. Or you could turn your regular job into a consulting thing, much like I'm doing now, and you're actually a business. You're an independent contractor. You can be incorporated and even get a few better tax benefits, and even some liability protection and all that. And once you do that, you can charge more hourly for your time. You can be in more control of your schedule, and you can get all the the tax benefits of being a business owner, which are great. So that's pillar number 2. And then pillar number 3 is the investing pillar. You have to understand that it's very unlikely you're going to reach the promised land, or the amount of money you need to retire, through savings alone. Most everyone is going to need to compound their savings through investing. And that's either going to be through the public markets. I think for most people through public markets or through personally owned real estate, or even maybe real estate syndication. I think those are the two primary ways most people are going to invest. And you really need to understand investing, not only hopefully how to do it well and have success at it, but you need to understand like how much return on your invested dollars you need in order to get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
So in each of these pillars, I have courses. So I have both like a free course and then an advanced paid course in each pillar. And one is about the financial prudency, I call it the financial independence roadmap. And it's all about figuring out how much money you need to make, you need to save, you need to invest to reach, your retirement nest egg goal. And it also, walks you through how to figure out what your retirement nest egg goal should be based on your hopes and dreams and expectations. So that's one pillar of courses. The next pillar of courses is the business portion, where I talk about, the benefits of incorporating, kind of walk people through how to do that and why it's valuable. So I have like a free and paid course in that line. And then the last part is the investing part. Now, in my case, most of my investing has been real estate up until now. I mean, just up until very recently, my asset allocation has been about 75% real estate. And that's mostly been single family rentals and a couple commercial properties over the last 15 years. So I really like that.
Own, or are you investing in syndications, or what's their strategy there?
Well, for a long time, it was primarily single family rentals. I was doing mostly like turnkey stuff in different states because I was in California and it was kind of hard to do rentals financially there because everything's so expensive. And also like the tenant laws aren't that great. So I did that for a while, but then also our business was growing, and instead of like leasing and building out, someone else's building, we bought our own building and leased and renovated it. We did that twice. The business is still in the second one that we did. And that was also successful. So those were kind of more commercial developments in that we bought like warehouse spaces and we did change of use, and they were pretty big projects and had to go through, pretty serious, I guess, city planning and all that sort of stuff. So I think at the peak, I transacted on about 16 or so properties over the last, since 2006 was my first one or something like that. But what I've done lately is like the single family rentals, they're okay, but they're hit or miss on cash flow. And I'm in a place now where I want more, hopefully reliable cash flow.
Yeah.
And they did great on appreciation. I'm definitely the beneficiary of a bull real estate market. So I've been slowly selling them, but I like to be in real estate. I'm comfortable with it. So I've been taking the equity and going into some syndications that are a little bit more cash flow oriented and yield oriented. And so I've been in this transition of the last year to kind of redo my asset allocation essentially. And that's actually been a really good, interesting experience. I've researched a lot of different types of investments over the last year and a half, and ended up deciding on a few. And it's on my list to write some posts about my experience of investigating these different things and kind of report on where I netted out on them. But I've been busy, so I have yet to do that. I'm working on it.
Most people, most people don't even know that type of investing actually exists. Most people, when they talk about real estate investing, they think they got to buy a single family house. That's just how it is.
I know. Well, a lot of this has become more available just in the last 5 years. I mean, honestly, through podcasts and blogs and in different ways for just everyone to get their knowledge out there. And then be found by people that are looking for that specific information. I mean, it just didn't exist 10 years ago. You couldn't find your way into syndications very easily.
Nope. You had to be part of the old boys club.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's definitely a lot more opportunity out there. There's a lot more players too, though. So it's like you really got to do your research and,
Yes.
and whatever. But yeah, so the investing thing is critical. And my little courses in that pillar are focused on doing real estate investment analysis, particularly more so for buying individual properties, because I kind of just masterminded my own
Yep.
approach to figuring that out, and I built out some great tools for myself, just to quickly dissect investments and see how they might play out over 30 years, and what if I got out in year 15, and what if this happened, and what if that happened. So I created this crazy spreadsheet with all these adjustable
Hmm.
metrics, and after I use it a lot, and I was like, wow, this is actually pretty darn handy. And I couldn't find anything that was as thorough as mine. So I created a little course basically on how to use my spreadsheet. But also,
Hmm.
when you use it, you really are you come to a real understanding of how real estate investment returns are made,
Yeah.
and how they are produced by the asset. And I think I've kind of realized in talking to a lot of people, especially through podcasts, I go on podcasts about real estate, is that people buy stuff and then they don't analyze the numbers. They don't know how
Mhm.
the real estate is actually doing. And it's not something that I think you can do with your gut. So I used to do that a lot, and it helps you to know, like, is my real estate investment worth being in? Because real estate does take more time. So if it's not producing a better return than, say, the market might,
Yeah.
it might not be a winner. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, it is an investment to produce a return on your invested capital.
Yeah,
Um,
that's key, right? You got to look at what it's actually producing versus a lot of people just want to get into a piece of real estate because they think it's going to appreciate or something like that. We're going to lose money, no big deal. We're just going to be worth more in the end. That's how people get in trouble.
yeah. I mean, it's like in some ways, over time, it probably will appreciate and be worth more in the end. But
Yeah. If
the
you can
more you
hold on
own
to
it,
it.
the longer you own it, very likely you're going to have to do a major
Hmm.
renovation. You're going to run
Hmm.
into all major systems that we need to replace. You'd be surprised how quickly your cash flow can be unwound,
Yes.
at a certain time in that. So I don't think buy and hold forever is the right strategy for real estate. I mean, I think it's, an exit strategy of 5 to 10 years is probably the most prudent based on, just the renovation factor alone.
Yep.
But it's a lot of work. So, but I always had a hard time giving my money over to other people. So I'm getting more used to that. And I think the syndications for me, are better for where I'm at. But
Sure.
we'll see. Hopefully
Yeah.
they go well.
Time will tell. That's good.
Time
But
will
it's good
tell.
as you go, you're always trying to find better ways that fit who you are, and that's key. What's a mistake, Joe, that you've made throughout the years in business and finance, and how have you learned from it?
Man, this question's a tough one for me. I guess I have a hard time, like, kind of identifying, like, or committing to something being a mistake. um, but I
Well,
guess,
a
like,
learning experience, whatever you want to call it, but something
yeah,
you've done that you went, wow, you know, should have done that this way, or next time I'll do it this way.
I would say, well, we did that. We would do these side businesses with our business. We always kind of wanted to figure out, our main business was the post production, but we always wanted to maximize our capacity, and you couldn't
Yeah.
always do that in a regular line of work. So we'd be like, well, we got extra capacity here for this, that, and the other. What if we do this a little business and try to create a new line of revenue? And actually, one of the things we decided to do was to create a comedy website,
Hmm.
uh, which, we're in the entertainment-esque business, so that was relevant,
Right.
because it's really just content creation. And we had a certain amount of, like, interns and folks, that wanted to make things, but they couldn't necessarily work on the higher profile projects. So we're like, what if we have this website where we can make, like, kind of funny, silly things, and they can practice and whatever. And we set out to do that, and it was relatively successful in that we built it and it grew to being a pretty sizable, like, monthly viewership. But I didn't really understand the difference of monetizing different kinds of content,
Hmm.
and the comedy audience is not a purchase intent audience. They're just, basically, I mean, well, I used to joke that we were basically ruining productivity all over America with that website, because pretty much people, like, it was most used during business hours because
Sure.
people are
I
just
could
like
see that.
avoiding doing work, and then like
Yep.
after 5, like, the viewership would like go down, and on the weekends it would be lower. So, but those people, when they're looking at that comedy content, they're not thinking about buying something, they're just like looking to be distracted.
Yep.
So it was harder to monetize that and have it be a profitable thing. And I wish I had known a little bit more about how monetization of content in the online space worked. And it's like funny now with my website, like but the good thing about that, doing that site, is it really did open me up to websites. That's kind of where the whole blog idea ultimately came from, because I was researching more and more of like, how do I make this website profitable? And I was learning about, the buyer intent stuff and all that. And I was like, oh, I should have, we should have made a website like about stuff that you could actually then sell to the audience. And then when I made my own website, I was like, I'm almost making more with my website than that website made, because my audience is like so focused, in the finance area, at least from like display advertising. So
Yep.
I took that kind of failure of understanding there, and I put it to good use in my own website, and luckily had that, that background in my mind when I set out to make my own website. So there
I
you
love
go.
it. I love it. Figuring out, so you now monetize your current website um by selling courses, right?
Yeah, that's
Is
the
that your main
primary
monetization?
revenue, is my own courses. I've made them, and then so it's kind of every time I sell, and it's not like I have to do much,
Yep.
though I answer questions and what have you. And then also, like I said, some sponsored content, and then just display ads, where it's like you go on the blog, you read a blog post, and there's a couple ads there. Um, so, but it's still a work in progress. It'll be a work in progress for a while.
But they're always a work in progress, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
everything's
that's the
everything's a
beauty
work
of it.
in life is a work in progress,
Yeah.
basically.
But that's the fun in for me in owning my own business, is that it's always a work in progress. So I'm always creating, we're always shifting, we're always trying something new. And yeah, sometimes we should go, well, that didn't work, or that wasn't the best course of action. Let's pull that back, or just no longer do that. But we're always able to create, and it's always that work in progress. It's super cool. Like, I love building, I love doing construction,
Hmm.
and that's what I think of my business as. I'm building a house, right? And I'm just like building something from the ground all the way up, and we're doing additions, and we're remodeling, and that's how I look at my business.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I really, exactly what you just said. I mean, one thing I like the most about having a business is the building part of it.
Yep.
And I think honestly, part of the reason I was willing to like leave my old business is because we got it to a good place, and the building part was a little bit over, and it was more the maintenance mode. It was like just the day in,
Sure.
day in, day out. And a little bit of the spark of it was gone for me. So in leaving, not that I saw the blog as a potential business, but then I saw the opportunity of the consulting and this business management firm, and I kind of got myself back in the building mode. But I also was like, I want to focus on my family, so I'm not going to build anything too big this time.
Sure. Sure.
But that was the goal. It's like, I want to keep doing something, do something new, but my profile now is I want it to be mobile. Like, I don't want it to
Yep.
have to be too big in order to be successful. So because I want to have more, time for life. I used to work, 60, 70 hours a week, and that was
Yeah.
awesome. Actually, I loved it. I love working. It's actually a good thing for me to be doing, just generally anyway. But nowadays I don't want to work that much, and also have tons of people asking me questions all the time and like waiting on answers from me. Like, now
Yeah.
the beauty of my business is like, I'm not like mission critical like on a day-to-day basis. I'm mission critical like on a monthly basis. Like, we got to know how the business is doing and make the right moves going forward. But it's like, I'm not part of like delivering the product. So
Yeah.
no one's like
Yeah.
waiting on me to get back to them on a Saturday, so they can move on and get on to the next, thing they have to do.
You've got a
So
bit
I
more
don't miss that.
time freedom now, right? Where you can
Yes,
certainly you have deadlines, certainly you have to do a job, but you don't it doesn't have to be done right now, and you can be doing things like, right now you're at a an Airbnb, um
that's right.
hanging out, and you can actually do something like that on a weekday.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see it out there, but I'm right on a
I can see
canal
it
in
sunny.
Anna Maria Island. There's a pool down there. It's palm trees. It's fantastic.
Yeah, love it, love
And
it.
I do a little bit of work, like I'll do a little
Sure.
bit of work maybe
Well, you're doing
one
work
day
right
this
now.
week. Yeah. Well, this
Yeah.
is more fun, but
Yeah, that's true. Joe, all right, we're going to wrap up here with a couple last questions. What's a favorite book that you can recommend to our listeners?
well, um, there's a handful of books that I've read that I really like. Um, but for the topic of like, you're trying to commandeer your financial life and those sorts of things, there's and get ahead. Um, there's three books in the Rich Dad series that I've liked and really took a lot out of. One is the quintessential Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think that's a good book. Just to the idea of building assets and all that.
Mm,
In another book in that series that was really good, it was called The Loopholes of Real Estate.
yep.
Um, Really great book about understanding how valuable real estate can be. And then another book in the Rich Dad series is called Tax Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright. Um, if you read those three books, it's a good trifecta of information about how to, think about building your wealth over time and understanding the value of owning a business, understanding the value of owning real estate, understanding where the tax benefits of those things are. And then, the primary book, The Rich Dad Poor Dad, is about building those assets, both
Right.
businesses, real estate assets, what have you. So I will say this, I always give one caveat to Rich Dad Poor Dad. When he says in there, like, your house isn't your biggest investment, it's your biggest expense, disregard that statement altogether. Buy your house. That's my recommendation there. It's a real estate
Yep.
investment like any other, and it's one of the easiest ones to get into and has the most tax benefits of any real estate investment generally out there, unless you get up into really big stuff.
Yep. Yep. I definitely agree. I think when he was stating it, and he probably still believes it, which is fine. But I think what people get caught up with when they here's the danger of thinking your house is an asset too much, is where people start to then cash that out constantly, and they're using it as this ATM machine to keep on living this lifestyle that they really can't afford, but their house keeps gaining in value, and so they're just going to refinance, pull money out, use that, and then try to keep doing it. And
Right.
that's where people got stuck. And you look at, well, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then all of a sudden 2006, 2007, 2008, everything just implodes, and you go, whoa, yeah, it's not that big of an asset. And it is if you use it right, but it's a tool like anything else. And
Yes.
so
I
that's
look
where
at
people get
my
in
I
trouble.
look the way I look at that statement is I think it should have been revised to say that housing is your biggest expense, not your house. Meaning you're going to be needing housing whether you own the real estate or you don't. I mean, unless you
Yep.
plan to live at home forever, or you can
Yeah.
have like a house that's, a greatly rent controlled apartment that is not, the expense of which is going to beat inflation, which some people do can get in certain cities. Most likely you're going to be paying average market price for housing throughout your life. Now, so I always look at myself as a permanent renter. I'm also a real estate investor that happens to own the property that is my residence.
Yep.
When you look at it that way, and that's how it's looked at when you go buy a business for your building, it's completely looked at that way. Um, but you have to look at the investment that is your residence as like an investment, and you can't, like, much to what you were saying, you can't do stupid things with it. You can't overbuild it for the neighborhood. Like, you can do all those things as long as you know that that's going to be the expense side of your life, it's not going to necessarily make that asset perform well. So I've always kind of looked at my houses and, in a way that, well, if I'm going to, do renovations, are they good renovations for this as an investment, not just like I really want marble in every room in the house, and that's just a personal choice, but that's going to be a waste of money. Not that I would ever do that. Who wants marble in every room in the house? But I've always, looked at all my residences that way. There's been 3 of which, and they've all produced great returns. I mean, it's just the reality.
Yeah,
And then the capital gains are tax free up to $500,000 for a married couple. And once you add that in, I mean, it's hard to lose, in my opinion.
Yeah.
With the real estate, you might go up and down, with the markets, but big reductions in real estate values are generally pretty rare. I mean, I don't know, maybe that's changing in the last 20 years, but I owned a bunch of property through the big Great Recession, and they all worked out fine in the end. And you just sit put, and as long as they have a reasonable cash flow profile, you wait it out.
Yep, love it. All right, Joe, last question before we wrap up. What are your 3 pillars of wealth creation? You probably already answered that, but let's run through them.
Yeah. So just coincidentally, I work in pillars just like you do. And I do have 3 pillars to success. And the 3 pillars to success are financial prudency, or AKA personal finance, being business minded, AKA be entrepreneurial, and be investing focused. And i.e., learning about real estate market investing, knowing what kind of return you need on your saved money to get you to the promised land.
Love it. Love it. All right, Joe, tons of great information today. How can our listeners get in touch with you, learn about Play Loud, or learn more about what you got going on?
Yeah, just we'll go to my website, playlouder.com. I mean, there's, it's a blog, so there's tons of free reads there. And if you read everything, you'd probably get everything I know. But if you want more concentrated advice, I have courses in each of those 3 pillars, both a free version, which is like a light version, and then a paid, more advanced version. And then in terms of actually contacting me, you can email me, joe@playlouder.com. And I'm not too big on social media. I don't want to get wrapped up in social media, but LinkedIn is probably, the place I do interact the most, I guess. Awesome. And that link is on my website.
Awesome. Well, Joe, again, really appreciate it. Lots of good information, good, fun story. I love that you're semi-retired at an early age, but it sounds like, kind of just living your best life. So I love it and absolutely appreciate the time that you've been able to give us. You Absolutely. Have a fantastic rest of the day.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate having me on, man.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. Your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So the other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out, and we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.